Hey everyone, today's video is going to be a cooking video. Now, I feel like it has been a long while since I last filmed one of these. I don't even know what the last cooking video would have been on my channel, but today I'm going to be making a fully vegan Christmas dinner to share with you guys. I'm kind of using this as like a test run before the real thing in a few weeks time. So I'm going to show you guys some sides that I always have. I'm going to try some new sides that I haven't tried before, and hopefully it might give you guys a little bit of inspiration for your own Christmas dinners this year. So in terms of like the main component of the meal, or like the turkey equivalent, I picked up this Plant Chef roasting crown for £3 in Tesco. If you've seen my recent haul video, you would have seen it in that. If not, I will leave a link to that in the description. But this looks so good. It serves 2 people, it takes around 30 minutes to cook, and it's got like a garlic and parsley oil on it. Honestly looks incredible, and I feel like this would make a really good vegan meat alternative this Christmas dinner. So because it only takes around 30 minutes to cook, I'm going to just shove this in the oven at the same time that I cook my roast potatoes. I also picked up some vegan pigs and blankets from Morrison's. Again, these are in my Morrison's haul and taste test, so I will leave a link to those in the description. But these were £2.50 and they are little mushroom vegan sausages wrapped in vegan bacon. They taste great. They take about 15 to 20 minutes to cook, so I'll put those in the oven a little bit later on. But as like a vegan pigs and blankets alternative, I definitely really recommend these. And then the final shop bought component to the meal is the stuffing. This is probably one of my favourite parts to a Christmas dinner, I think. I'm just obsessed with stuffing. I could probably eat it for breakfast, lunch and dinner, but I just picked up this very standard sage and onion stuffing from Tesco. Super simple to make. It's just a case of adding some boiling water, letting the mixture absorb it, and then rolling it into balls and cooking it for around 25 to 30 minutes. So I guess then moving on to the more homemade components, I always start with my roast potatoes just because they tend to take the longest. Now, I will say I do pride myself on my roast potatoes. I feel like I make a pretty good roast potato, so definitely recommend trying out this recipe if your recipe is maybe a little bit different, or if you just have no clue where to start with roast potatoes. For these, I just peel and chop my potatoes. I like mine pretty small just because I feel like the ratio of crisp to fluffy potato is better that way. I'm much more of a fan of like the crispy parts of the potato over like the fluffy insides, so I make mine pretty small, and then I just put these in a pot of boiling water and cook them for about 5 to 10 minutes. I normally just do this by eye and just make sure that they're kind of soft enough that I can poke a fork through, but they're not just mush and they're not just completely falling apart. I feel like it completely depends on the type of potato that you use and obviously the size that you chop them to as well. So definitely just poke them for a few times while they're cooking so you know when to drain them. Once they're kind of the right consistency, I will drain them and I'll just leave them in the colander for a few minutes to dry off. I feel like this helps fluff them up. I don't know if that's just something I've picked up from the way that my mum does it, but I just leave them on the side to kind of dry off a little bit, and while that's happening I will prep some of my vegetables. So I'll start peeling my carrots, peeling my parsnips, kind of getting those chopped up into battens. I'll also put some vegetable oil in a pan at this point and put that in the oven to heat up, and then once the potatoes are kind of dried off, I'll put them back in the pan. I'll add a bunch of salt and pepper, some onion granules, garlic granules, and I'll also add some rosemary. So normally when we make these at home we use fresh rosemary, but I only have dry rosemary, so that is what I added. And then I just kind of put the colander on top of the pan as like a lid, and I shake the pan very aggressively to fluff up the potatoes. Now, I feel like this is the most important step to getting really crispy potatoes. Making them super fluffy on the outside just means there's like more things for the oil to cling onto and crisp up. So I honestly try and make them as bashed as possible, because everyone knows that the crispy parts of the potato are the best bit. So once they're like fully fluffed up and I've got little piles of mash essentially because they're so battered, I will then take the tray out of the oven and put the potatoes in the oil, making sure they're all well covered. I'll also add some fresh cloves of garlic. These are so good once cooked. They're like one of my favourite parts of the meal. If you're lucky enough to get one of the fresh cloves of garlic in your like portion of potatoes, it's always a win. So add some garlic and then I will shove them in the oven to cook for around 30 to 40 minutes. At this point I'll also add the carrots and parsnips to the tray. So these have already been peeled and chopped into battens, so I'll just add them to the tray with a little bit of oil, some salt and pepper. Mustard also works really well as like a little bit of a drizzle on these, but I didn't have any of that, so these are going to be maple glazed. So after around 20-25 minutes of cooking, when there's about 15 minutes left remaining, I will take them out of the oven and drizzle on a little bit of maple syrup as well, which just adds a really nice flavour. One side that we don't have every Christmas, but is actually probably one of my favourites, I would say, so I definitely wanted to include it, is cauliflower cheese. For this, I just chop up the cauliflower into florets and I'll put that in a pan of boiling water for about 5 minutes or so. just until they're slightly softened. I don't want to fully cook them because they're going to continue cooking in the oven as well, and otherwise they just kind of turn to mush in a cheese sauce, which isn't the nicest consistency. So I just slightly soften them in the boiling water and then drain those once they're cooked. I'll then start making my cheese sauce. So for this I just put in equal parts butter and flour in a pan, super low heat. I will melt the butter first, and then once that's melted, add in the flour, stir it for a couple of minutes just to kind of cook off that raw flour flavour, and then I'll gradually start adding my soy milk a little bit at a time until a smooth sauce is created. I normally do this by eye, I don't really follow a specific recipe. I just keep adding the milk until it's the kind of consistency that I like, but bear in mind that it will continue to thicken as you cook it and when you add the cheese and things like that as well. And then once I've added all my milk and it's kind of the right consistency, I'll season it with some salt and pepper. I'll add some onion and garlic granules, and I'll also add like a big heaped handful of grated cheese. So this time round I used some smoked cheddar from Morrison's, just to add an extra little bit of flavour as well. And the smoked flavour of the cheese actually works really nicely in the cauliflower cheese, so I mix that in. Vegan cheese isn't always the best at melting, so I don't really mind if there's a few lumps at this point because it will continue melting in the oven. I'll then just add the cooked cauliflower to a tray and drizzle on the sauce on top and put that in the oven and cook it for around 20 to 25 minutes. In terms of other sides, sweet and carrot mash is another one of my favourites, super easy to make. I just boil equal parts swede and carrot in a pan for about 10 to 15 minutes or so until they're super soft. I'll then drain those and mash it with a lot of butter, probably too much butter, and some salt and pepper as well. I normally keep my seasonings on my sweet and carrot mash quite simple, but flavours like nutmeg work really well in these. I just go for a whole lot of butter and it tastes great. Mash it all together and that is pretty much it done. In terms of sprouts, normally at Christmas we're very standard, very traditional. We literally just go for boiled sprouts, which aren't the most appetizing vegetable, so this time round I wanted to try something a little bit new. So instead I boiled the sprouts for about 5 minutes until they were kind of semi-cooked, and then I left them on the side and drained them. I then heated up a little bit of oil in a frying pan and added some fresh garlic, cooked that for a couple of minutes, and I also added some vegan bacon pieces. So the ones I used are from Oomph, and I feel like they're okay, but I think if I made this again I would probably use the ones from Vivera instead. I definitely think I prefer those ones, but I just cooked that in the oil for a few minutes until the bacon was crispy. I halved the sprouts and then added that into the bacon mixture as well, seasoned it with some salt and pepper, and then added a good spoonful of vegan butter, let that melt in with the sprouts and the bacon, put a lid on it and just let that continue cooking for a few minutes, probably for another 5 or 10 minutes or so. And I just made sure I stirred that occasionally. And then that's kind of all of the components that I made for this Christmas dinner, and it was just a case of piling them all up on one plate. Timings wise, I always add the potatoes, carrots and parsnips to the oven first. About 10 minutes later I added the vegan chicken roast and then the stuffing as well. And then 10 minutes after that I added the cauliflower cheese and the vegan pigs and blankets and cooked that all together for another 15 to 20 minutes or so until everything was cooked. I then served it all with some onion bisto gravy, which is my personal favourite, and I also added some pickled onions, which I feel like is the kind of thing that some people would find very strange to have on a Christmas dinner. I don't know if it's something that just my family do, but we've always had pickled onions with our roasts, so I feel like a roast is not complete without them. So I added the gravy, I added the pickled onions, and that was my completed vegan Christmas dinner. Definitely really pleased with how it turned out, and it has made me more excited for Christmas dinner part 2 in a few weeks' time. Gonna see which elements I'm gonna pick and choose to have on Christmas Day as well. But I hope this helped give you guys some Christmas dinner inspiration for this year. Let me know some of your favourite like Christmas dinner components, what you're gonna be having this year. What is your favourite element of a Christmas dinner? I feel like mine has to be stuffing, maybe roast potatoes. I feel like it would maybe be a toss-up between the two, but definitely let me know if you're planning on making anything that I showed in this video for your Christmas dinner. I will leave some recipes in the description that I used as inspiration for a few of the things that I made. But otherwise, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.